Thank you. And thanks, Justin, and the entire Media Tell Events team. This is obviously a conference that we all look forward to in this market. Just to introduce, I am Darrick Li, Managing Director of Standard Media Index here in Canada. And it's great to be in front of this audience for the first time. It's really an exciting time for us and the SMI team here in Canada because we just launched this market and the data set in this market about a year ago. And we truly challenged ourselves to start the business and build the business in the middle of a pandemic. And we've, really, it's been a market where advertising has been really hard hit compared to some of the other major markets. It's also been a market with very little transparency when it comes to accurate ad spend reporting, and we're truly lucky to be where we are. The support in the market over the last year has also been very tremendous. It's, from our agency partners to our global and Canadian media owners, and then along with the industry associations, it's been a very exciting time for us. And we'll take this opportunity to really quickly announce today that we have formalized a partnership with Think TV in Canada, which is a huge step in bringing the transparency of data front and center for the TV industry, and obviously a lot of you that have joined us today at this conference. So just to set the stage for today, Standard Media Index is obviously a new face at this conference, and so by way of background, SMI has been around for over 10 years and has truly become the trusted source for ad intelligence globally. We aggregate invoice data from the major holding agency companies and large independents worldwide. And it's really for the industry to leverage in benchmarking, investment conversations, and really getting a better understanding of close to census-based spend and pricing data. In these 5 markets in particular that I've shown here, we have a tremendous coverage of over 90% of national brand ad spend. And we're lucky to be able to say in Canada that we have a 94% coverage. And that comes from the 6 major holding agency companies, along with Horizon Media. And by the end of this year, actually, we will be rounding out the remainder of the agency market by adding agencies like Cossette and Inocean to the pool. So what we're going to do is dive into some of the figures that are shaping our ad market today. When you look at this comparison, it's comparing against US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And on the far left-hand side, you see that at the start of 2020, we were already down 7% before the same quarter in the previous year, Q1 2019. In Q2 in blue, you can see that we were the hardest hit, as I mentioned earlier, down 49% versus the previous year. And compared to other markets that were only down in the 30s, we truly had a lot of ways to go in this market. Fast forward a couple of quarters to purple, we were down 6% in Q4, while all of the other markets already started to rebound, up 5% across the other markets. And then Q1 of 2021, we were finally in that rebound zone, up 5% on par with other major markets. And then in orange, we had a lot further to climb, but you see clearly by the height of the orange bar, up 77% in Q2 of 2021, which is where a lot of the focus of today's presentation will be around, and that inflection point that we've hit that rebound now. And then July, when we first created this, we were looking at July numbers, but up 54%. And actually, we did recently release August numbers, and we've now shown 2 consecutive months of growth versus pre-pandemic levels of 2019. So we're right now in the middle of that ad market rebound, and it's no better time to take a look deeper into TV and video viewership and where that spend is being driven from. When we look at the spend broken down by television as a media type, on the far left-hand side, we see the average of the 5 markets down down 12% versus 2019 and up 35% versus 2020. So, we still have room to grow on a television standpoint. And just to make it completely aligned, television for us and the rest of this presentation is linear television. And I'll try to refer to that when we have that listed. But it's still down 12%. And that's being driven by US, obviously from a volume perspective, but down 14% versus 2 years ago. And Canada on par with that, down 14%. So showing growth versus last year, which is great. Still some room to grow from a television standpoint. And this really points to the acceleration of the pandemic to this media type. But it also, as I mentioned, points to digital and where streaming comes into the picture. Specifically, ad-supported video on demand, which is not captured on this chart. We will take a look at that a little bit later on. So let's look at a share of media, or share of investment by media type. If we focus in on Canada really quickly, today, 56% of all spend is in digital, and just over 1/3 of every dollar is in linear TV. Versus pre-pandemic levels, you can see that the shift has truly come for digital, up 13 percentage point in share for digital. So that growth has now crossed the halfway mark and actually is leading across all of these 5 markets. And that's come at the expense of a little bit from linear television, but also a lot from other media, which other would include radio, out of home, and print. This is a very different dynamic than what we're seeing on the left-hand side from the US. Linear television has lost 9 percentage share points, pretty much all to digital, which is up 12 percentage points. And again, we're going to look a little bit more closely at the shifts between TV and digital within Canada in the upcoming slides. So when we compare against our US neighbor, the trends are very similar here. In the middle, first, growth versus 2020 and 2019 for both markets for digital. And so that's pretty, probably very obvious to most of us, but pretty on par when we look at the growth rates. On the right-hand side, television, we have grown 24% versus 11% from the US versus last year, but versus the previous year, I'd say we're still on par, down 14% versus 12. And then on the far left-hand side, cross-media total, again, this is looking at first half numbers, and we still are in the single-digit change mark, down 7%, while the US already was in that rebound. I'll make one specific note about television and its place among traditional media types, is that it's definitely, the mass reach and the power of TV still holds a lot of share among traditional media. Down 14% versus 2019 compares to down 26% of all traditional media. That includes print and out of home and radio. And obviously the pandemic really truly impacted traditional media types, but that point there is just to highlight that TV is still holding its fair and strong share of all traditional media. There's no surprise, as we saw on that slide, that digital has brought advertisers more and more opportunities over the last 10 years, and even more in the last 5 years when it comes to advertising. And we were really curious as to when digital started separating from the, and started really impacting investments of linear TV. And so what we're showing here is that the delta between digital and television, the teal and the dark blue bar, has really started to, grow over the last couple of years. Digital is now 1 in every 2 media dollars. And obviously the linchpin in all of this is what I mentioned earlier, is that digital includes ad-supported video on demand in our definition. And that move to streaming video has been more and more apparent over the last couple of years. But what we're showing here is that the highlight in yellow on the back is the first half of each year. And over time, what we've seen is that the TV investment became lower and lower than the total digital investment in that first half of each year. The second half traditionally has been stronger, driven by the retail holiday season for digital, has been traditionally stronger for that. But really in the last couple of years, and even before the pandemic truly hit, that line started to separate away from television for digital. So what we're going to do is on this chart, look a little bit closely into digital video and the streaming opportunities and why we're classifying that in the digital media type. What we've done here is compared television to, or linear television to connected TV. And we've aligned our definition to that of the Media Ratings Council, which, as many of you probably saw, recently, a few weeks ago, updated their guidelines to those definitions. So in our definition, CTV is the device that displays over-the-top streaming video and content, some of course which is ad-supported and some of which is not. And what we've captured here is the ad spend, the ad-supported video on demand, and the spend towards that in a visual that really truly demonstrates the growth in the last year during the thick of the pandemic. Connected TV itself has just become more prominent for advertisers as they are reaching new audiences with their premium content just on newer devices. And so I just want to make it clear on this slide, and we'll see it in the next slide too, is that broadcasters video on demand, so that of Rogers, Bell, CBC, Chorus, all of those are included in terms of their share of connected TV. And then as the title suggests, connected TV has been on a tremendous tear, up 200% versus last year and up 800% versus 2019. So who are the media owners? They hold a combined 63% share of CTV. Some of the Canadian owners highlighted there, CBC, Bell, and Rogers. But it's nice to see that there's a tremendous growth from these top 10 owners, now accounting for 63% of the share of connected TV, and led by Roku and Google. Let's switch gears really quickly back to linear TV for a second. When we look at the top broadcasters, Rogers, Bell, and Chorus continue to take the lion's share of TV investment, now up to 82% of share. And we see a tremendous growth from each of them. And a lot of that growth for Rogers has been driven from Sportsnet, which speaks to the importance of live sports for advertisers. When we look at the top 10 TV channel networks in Canada, I think the obvious story here is that the gray bars in 2021 have really come back to 2019 levels, almost like it skipped a beat, and advertisers have come back to almost every network. So news brands like CTV, Global, and City TV, they've maintained or grown their share. Entertainment like TVA, W Network, HGTV also maintain their share. But the glaring insight here is the dip in some of the sports networks like Sportsnet and TSN. Obviously, it's come back a little bit, but still some room to grow, and Q3 will probably show a much stronger story. So for Sportsnet, when the leagues were shut down in 2020, you can see that ad revenue volumes were pretty low for Sportsnet. And I think we can all agree that live sports is the upper echelon of premium content. And Sportsnet truly shows, that propensity for advertisers to look at this genre of content. When you look at the most recent months, the ad investment have begun to normalize. And it's really exciting to look forward to the coming months and our release of Q3 data to start to see this really pan out. It really started to pick up in those recent months, as it demonstrates here. What we're showing here is the unit rates, and as the title suggests, advertisers are seeing more and more value in paying more for linear TV. And this certainly doesn't suggest that Chorus has just become more expensive. Unit rates are completely driven by audiences and eyeballs. And what is driving this is the fact that their programming and their audiences have become that much more valuable for advertisers to invest more and more over time. When we looked at the chart previously, Chorus owns 3 of the networks in the top 10, and all 3 of these channels were up versus 2020. And this is just a look at the advertising categories and what they are spending as a unit rate of an equivalized 30-second spot on Chorus. Couple last slides to end this off. We look at the advertiser categories here that tend to spend more in TV, which includes CPG, automotive on the left-hand side. Also, restaurants and wellness have a higher propensity or index to spend more in TV versus all media types. What we see here at the top is their volume growth versus last year. Entertainment and media and travel services on the far right still have some room to come back to regular levels. But we're seeing a lot of great growth from those categories in share, like CPG, restaurants, wellness, household supplies within CPG has been a really big one over the last 18 months. And, you know, that great growth that we're seeing from a lot of these categories, we really look forward to seeing that at the start of this broadcast year, and those ones that are tending to spend more in linear television. So I want to end off with this slide because it really points to where the market is headed. It shows the index and the growth rates for advertising across linear on the left-hand side and connected TV. And within linear TV, CPG and automotive are at the top from an investment volume perspective, while on connected TV, technology and entertainment tend to spend more on that medium. And so really comparing them side to side is interesting to look at where the opportunities come from. And what I like about this chart is if you look towards the bottom, it shows the top, it shows the top indexing categories, and those that are recognizing that there is more and more opportunity in the specific media types. On the left-hand side, financial services, as an example, is indexing highly. And then on the right-hand side, you have a category like that of financial services. Sorry, I mixed that up. Apparel and accessories on the left-hand side for linear TV, and on the right-hand side, financial services indexing highly for connected TV. And then you also have categories like wellness and apparel and accessories that have yet to take advantage of CTV, but again, might be an opportunity for the suppliers to demonstrate a synergy with their content. So I'll end off there, and you know, with some key takeaways. Canada, we saw the largest cross-media growth versus other markets in Q2, and we're continuing to see that growth and that rebound in the recent months of July and August. In the middle, you know, connected TV has obviously started to become more prevalent from a digital investment standpoint, and has started to separate linear TV away from digital. And then on the right-hand side, we looked far into the categories and those that are showing an opportunity for overall TV over time. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you enjoy the rest of today's conference. If there are any questions, my details and Kelly on the team here at SMI are there, and look forward to catching up with you personally. Thank you so much.